Hi, hello, it's me, Unkempt Snuggle Pepper, back for another art critique from Reddit. This time, we're going to be fighting evil by moonlight and winning love by daylight. Well, we have Sailor Mars, which is close. She's from the Sailor Moon series. There are a couple things I'm going to talk about. One is going to be anatomy and posing, and then the other is going to be color choice. Uh, Third, kind of random that doesn't fit into either of those two categories, I would move the signature to down here maybe. Right now it looks like her arm's sticking out to accommodate for the signature. So I'm going to take the opacity of this down a bit. And we'll go in with a pen and kind of sketch out a few things. I feel like her face is a little long. I also seem to remember her being a somewhat serious character, so I don't think she would have quite this expression. Maybe like with her teeth, a little bit more kind of expression. And then I would keep her head from getting too big, which is pretty easy to do in some of these styles, is to go a little too big. So that's about the size I would go for the head. And then I do like the shape you have for the hair. What I'm concerned with is that she's running. So since this leg is in front, this shoulder is going to be in front. And I would put her hands, this hand here. Because for her to hold it out there, that's almost like this portion of her is about to ask a question. Which is fine if that's the pose, if that's what the rest of the pose agreed with, but unfortunately the rest of the pose doesn't agree with that. I would opt for a little thinner on her fingers, and there should be a little bit more space right here before you start where the knuckles are. And then with this arm, there's that. There's where I want her elbow to be. Okay, so now we have more movement. And this also makes more sense with where her legs will be. This doesn't need to come out quite that far, because if she steps that far inward while running in heels, she's going to fall. It also gives her legs too much of a stocky appearance compared to the originals, where they are very tall and very thin. We don't have to necessarily show the heel of a high heel in order for it to read as she's wearing heels. This little triangle is not going to exist. You get a little too angled with your shapes. And then with that leg turning inwards, I don't think we're going to see the heel there either. Now, her hips are actually up here, which means her little V goes up there as well. Please don't make this dirty. That little extra bit of fabric right before their skirts. And then her skirt would come out up here. So that's more of the pose I would take with her. We still get that cool running action, but we don't get some of the weird shapes that had been included. My next note would be if her bow is behind her. if her bow is behind her, the center of her bow is going to be right here. The bow itself is going to come out like this. And since you made this bow a lot smaller than they have in this series, then this bow can't be that big. We might see one of the ends of the bow come out, but we're not going to see both. And we're definitely not going to see the far side of the bow come out on here. Remember, we don't have to show everything. We can leave a few things to the viewer's imagination. So now back to the original. A few notes on color. I really like how you did the skin. I think that's really cool. I really like how you shaded the hair. I like that you went with shades of purple rather than going for the pure black. However, I would remove some of these highlights. I don't think she needs that many highlights, nor would I make them that small. I would take those highlights and actually make them a little bit bigger. I think that you really enjoyed making the highlights, but you weren't exactly sure where to add the highlights. So I would probably do that instead. Let's get you back centered. I will note, when I was zoomed in, there is a tangent right here. So the line of her collar is coming down, and then this is the line depicting that the bow is, this is the line depicting the bow is wrapping around. So I would actually move that line just a little bit over to avoid making it a tangent right there. That means two lines are intersecting, which kind of throws off art. It's one of the compositional things we look out for. My next note is on her skirt. I don't think you were quite sure how to shade it, because this red and this pink are almost the same exact value. So to keep with the color scheme that's going on with her, yes, I would shade in a purple. I'm going to shade in this purple. Let's gotta make it more saturated. So I would shade closer to this color. And so wherever one of these pleats are, there's going to be a shadow and a highlight. And then up by the top, there's going to be a few lines because it is a gathered skirt. And then we'll go in with this red color. You have it with her light source coming in this direction, so we want that red to go there. They were so close in value, I'm not sure which one is your shadow and which one is your highlight color. And then again, her bow is going to actually sit a little bit higher. And we aren't going to see both of these. Maybe one, maybe. But it hits so strangely. It's not a good shape like you have with her hair. If I were still going to include the bow, I would include it here. And then have it come out there. So there's our bow, there's her arm. And then it's completely in shadow because it's behind her. And that's going to help push it to the back. So overall, I think this is adorable. I think you did a stellar job kind of capturing Sailor Mars and in a cute sort of style. What I would work on in future projects is getting a more accurate pose, something that's a little bit more realistic, because your legs are saying I'm running towards something, this arm is almost saying I'm running towards something, and then this part of her body is saying I have a question. So make sure all of the language throughout the piece is coherent and goes together. I would say moving the arms is going to give her more of a running look. I didn't mention this, but I would be very careful about where the foot meets the shoe. She looks like she has a bit of swelling going on. So I would be aware of kind of the shape language that you also bring. Then when shading red, I would go with more of a purple color and make sure that when you are shading, you are creating a value change to show you're trying to show form. If you found this video helpful, give a like or subscribe. These videos are meant to be educational and demonstrative. If you'd like them to be more in-depth, leave a comment, along with your favorite Sailor Scout. Down below is the link to submit your own art or buy me a coffee. Until next time! Are you guys done?